Let's talk about first about Contopia and Loginno and of course your journey into the maritime, into the world of maritime digitalization.
Okay, so I started in maritime relatively late. I'm not like a Navy officer who lived in the sea and all that. And it was in Tim Lines, a big Israeli carrier, a big, significant global player. I was in charge of only marine people understand what this title means. Only container people. It's a special equipment business development manager.
Okay.
And in shipping companies, when they say equipment, they mean containers. That was in charge of all of the special services. I was the only marketing guy in logistics because the company needed to like connect the logistics activities with a little bit of business thinking. So I came straight from a consulting company to Tinlines, and after that I decided to become an entrepreneur. We started Loginno as an idea. I mean, this was actually supposed to be a project of Tim, but they gave it up. So I said to myself that I can't do this to myself if I'm gonna leave it like that. So I quit and I actually took Tim's part, what was supposed to be Tim's part. And we started the first few years, we were talking to shipping companies. We're still like in very low mode. We took our own money and just made sure that we get the right patents, that we get the right technology. We took time because the market wasn't ready. When you talk to shipping companies 10 years ago, they were like, what, innovation, what's that? I mean, smart containers, who's going to use that? Who's going to pay for that? And we actually got the looks. Fast forward 10 years later, when we issued a competition, which is unheard of. The small startup from Israel is asking the respectable shipping companies to compete, to pitch. So that was 10 years ago. That would be crazy, and we wouldn't get even one offer. But this year, 17 applicants, 4 shortlisted, and 1 winner.
So why did you choose this type of approach, this kind of competition, and how did this come about, and what were the impressions so far?
So we started with the big guys.
Okay.
We started talking to a lot of big names and a lot of big liners, and it was very apparent that they have their own idea as to what Contopia is and if it is at all needed, because until now most of them think that some of them understand that maybe for the reefer use case it's okay, but as like a general concept, container utopia, having 100% converted fleet, they're not sure. And I wouldn't blame them, because there is no situation until now where a shipping company decided to test that use case of 100% converted fleet. Because in 100% converted fleet, you get operational efficiency on all of your containers. You save money, that is of value. You can have 100% visibility for your shippers, for your customers, that is value. You have incredible use cases for insurance, for customs, for homeland security. And this is exactly what we want to do. But to do it with a company with several millions of containers, that would take so big an investment. So we said, okay, hold on with the big guys, and let's do the smaller guys first, because the smaller guys, we can actually cover them. We can actually use investment money to cover the entire conversion of a smaller guy and prove that Contopia works technologically, financially, I mean, as a business case. And the bonus to it was that this could actually serve as a kind of a marine innovation platform, and it would draw big players that want the sandbox to play with, 100% converted fleet scenario, but is not available, and we're going to create it, we're going to make it available to them. So we started with the big guys, saying, hey, we're creating this thing, would you be interested? We got huge players very interested. Now we have Contopia partners, companies such as Navis, Marlink, Lloyd's Register, as well as cutting-edge startups that have joined, all towards creating use cases in this very unique sandbox. So going back to the competition, so we said, okay, so we're going to do a smaller guy. How are we going to choose? And then there was this idea, why not have a competition? Because if we decided that we're going to do, if we're going to take the risk and prove, and this is something very, very crucial to us, it's the reason for our existence is to prove that Contopia works. Mm-hmm. So we might as well use investment money to do this and not do pilots, endless pilots with the big guys. Mm-hmm. And this is what we intended to do. So let's take care of the conversion ourselves, and then it becomes a prize. And if it becomes a prize, then there could be companies that would want to win that prize. So the entire competition.
So what was the determining factor? So the key factor in choosing now the winner of the competition?
So there's the official stuff that we said, and there's also the unofficial stuff. Let's start with the official stuff. The login was had displayed significantly more interest in really being that pioneer and capability. We went and met with companies. We either met them face to face or had very long video conferences, and they had a brilliant team, both an endorsement from the CEO. The CEO is a story by itself, which I'm going to tell. Endorsement from the CEO, really brilliant marketing guys, really brilliant operational guys, and the project manager, and that's the unofficial stuff, a project manager that told me from day one. I mean, when we started the announcing the competition at December 2018, we had to get the word out there. So we just phone called every CEO from the top, from the Alpha Liner top 100 minus the top 20, because we decided that we're going to cut it at 150,000 containers because we didn't have the money to do millions, and it needs to be a Contopia scenario. It needs to be an entire container fleet. So we phone called a lot of them, but for some reason the woman who did all the phone calls to set up the conversations with me with the shipping company CEOs skipped Brazil, because Brazil was not included in the subscription that we did. I don't remember, it was Skype or Viber, but some kind of subscription. Brazil was not included, so she skipped it. But eventually we did call the Brazilians. But before we called the Brazilians, I got this guy in a Portuguese accent, try to call me. And after that, going to my accelerator, the dock in Israel, and making them introduce us. I mean, really pushing. Whereas, all the others, it was either nice to have or very nice to have. But this guy was crazy with it, and then I answered, and his name is the Luis Enrique Godoy. He's the an operations manager in Login, and he said, "Listen, we're gonna win this. You'll see. We're gonna win this." And I was like, "Okay, but how? You know, what makes you unique?" And over the course of their application, they had really displayed not only the tenacity that I'm talking about, but real capability of doing this. Login is a very interesting story. That company almost went, almost closed down a few years ago. They were in a very bad state. They did some very drastic measures because they were in a bad state because they compete with, they're a big cabotage player. In Brazil. It's like a very niche market. Brazil is amazing for us because of the topographical situation. There's lots of mountains and valleys, and very, you know, it's all very tight, and all the population lives in that mountainy and valley, in that brain-like structure. And logistics is a nightmare, and that's why everything that can go wrong does go wrong, and that's why you desperately need IoT, you desperately need visibility to make things smarter. Brazil is also one of the global pioneers in IoT in general. For the automotive industry, they had several of the first use cases of the first governmental enforcements of IoT features in cars. So it was very apparent that there is a need. The market is good. The size is also good. And not small enough, but not like super big, so we can do things very fast.
Would you say that it's a challenge for you guys to do it in Brazil in such a, let's say, challenging environment?
So. The only thing, first of all, one important thing to understand that the more the challenge, the more the need for visibility and for our solution. So it's like, you know, a weapons company that really likes, it's going to be challenging to sell weapons in a war like situation. Like, war is our market. I mean, without war, we're out of business. So when it comes to Brazil, the problematic situation is actually good. One thing that I can say about Brazil that I hope that will be much better is the safety issue. I mean, they have a real safety issue with you know, crimes, even little crimes. But this is something that I hope. I mean, it's out of the game. It's not IoT related. Just hope
so
that.
In terms of next steps and implementation, what will be the next step? What will be your role in terms of equipping the containers and harvesting data? So, what are your plans now? When will you start with everything?
Okay, so we're gonna create a huge data miner. That is this shipping company, and we're going to also create usages of that data because the data by itself means nothing. So the first rollout is going to be, and first of all, it's very easy for us to provide an entire company scenario because we use these as the brains for the container, and this is an actual part of the container called a container vent. And this is our device that has all the electronics in it. So the depots already know how to remove and install this. We just give them an inventory of these, and they just install for every container that's with a demand.
So it shouldn't last for a long time. The installation process itself.
Installation process is on the fly, and very quick, and we don't have to train anybody. And we can start giving an entire company service at day one. All we need is inventory in the depots. So we're going to roll out with that. So it's the first product is going to be a shipper visibility app, Another smart feature that we call on schedule AI. We're actually using the real-time information to match it with forecasted information. So we're starting with a trip forecast. Every booked trip by Login would be converted to a geospatial forecast. We will know exactly before the container even leaves the factory. We know where it needs to be and when. And all we have to do is to match real-time information with that forecast. So we're able to give actually a world-unique tracking application that really gives you the status of your voyage in real visual data, knowing when it left the export warehouse, arrived to the port of loading, transshipments, and if something went wrong, and this is in real time, if something went wrong over there, it's gonna be automatically reported, automatically pushed to the customer. They would have a small place where they can start managing what they need to do. And in the future, we see that small place of the task management integrates into an automated system. So think, for example, that you have a shipment that is critical, your market is critical, it doesn't arrive or let's say it stays in the port of loading, it doesn't board the vessel, it misses the next vessel, and you have an automatic rule. If it's late by more than 8 days, create items 1, 2, and 3, create an automatic invoice, send it to the logistics manager, he needs to press on a green button, and it goes by air because the customer needs it somewhere else. This allows a lot of flexibility.
So do you have any specific targets in terms of analyzing the data now, and do you have any time frame in terms of how long will it take for you to analyze all the data, the shipping, and the cooperation with the companies?
So it's a step by step. The use case of the shipper visibility app is apparent, but there's also going to be an accumulation of the data to understand, for example, quality of service by subcontractors, to really dig deep into the demurrage aspect, to manage the whole fleet on the shipping company perspective, insurance use cases, customs use cases, homeland security use cases. It's amazing what this thing can unlock. So everything that can be put in a wrapping and be sold as an application all by itself is going to be something that will start fairly soon, either ourselves or with Contopia partners. The really big understanding of what's going to happen once we analyze the data and all that would probably take a little bit more time, but we're also equipped to do that. We have a partnership with operations research scientists that are just waiting for the data to accumulate, and they can put it in models. I mean, now we know that we don't know how powerful that data is going to be once it becomes analyzed and everything, but the rollout schedule is fairly quick. I mean, we hope that by the end of the year, the service will go out. We're finishing everything and it goes out. I mean, maximum, if there's be a delay, then early 2020, but not a lot. We don't want to delay it. We want to do it as soon as possible. And then it's going to be converted fleet, shippers using an application, and shippers using the visibility app, and several use cases that are going to start with Contopia partners dealing with insurance, customs, homeland security. A lot of it is on board vessels, connecting the container to the vessel, connecting the container to the crew of the vessel, to the port. Big Contopia partners such as Navis is very interested in the port. Marlik is very interested in the vessel.
So where does your business case come in the entire story? So you're investing a lot of your own funds into developing everything. So when do you plan to earn money?
So straight off the bat, because once starting now, We are approaching premium resilient customers and having them interested in the Shipper Visibility Act app. It's a very low charge, extra charge, that is much, much lower than the actual value that they're getting. They're going to save a lot of money into doing their logistics much more efficiently, into getting visibility and insight on the shipments. I mean, one unhappy customer for that company is worth a lot. And if they only need to pay a very small sum as a surcharge for shipment, which is nothing compared to the value that it's giving them, they're paying for it and happily. So we get before the rollout, we get a bulk of orders from customers, and that's where we're going to start.
So it's a good response from the market.
Yeah. So that's one thing, and we have half a year until we roll out to do the pre-sales, which is good. The second thing, and that's what we offer to any shipping company, the whole competition was meant to see what the shipping companies are going to contribute to it. So management attention, yes, that's wonderful, and they're opening up. I mean, Loginno is amazing in being really the first shipping company that sincerely wants to invite people in. They don't want to control the data. They want to have people over. They want to be a channel for innovation. They don't want to be controlling the data like most, if not all, of the other players. So let's get the data and then we decide what to do with it. No, there's a very clear understanding of what is going to be done with the data, and this is exactly what will be done. So coming back to there was a point that I wanted to make. You'll edit it out, sorry. There was a point that I wanted to make about what was the question? Do you remember?
You're already 22 minutes. So.
Okay, so we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
I was talking about the business case.
The business. And I answered.
Yeah.
Answered, but there's more. One thing that I can definitely say is that there is more. I mean, we're starting with the Shipper Visibility app, but this is definitely not the last product that you're going to see coming out of the Loginno data.
Yeah, and maybe just to wrap it up, the final question. We are hearing a lot about digitalization being a hype, a puff, that there's just too many talks about digitalization, but that the very operational benefits are yet to be reaped, so to say. So what is your opinion about making this a world of connectivity, a reality? Is it near? Is digitalization just a buzzword, or is it here? How do you see the market developing forward?
It started today, because today we're creating the first. Everybody is talking about Contopia. Today we have created Contopia. We have announced that we're going to create Contopia. It is on paper. It sounds great, but the fact that no shipping company had been 100% digital, and everybody is like hesitant to go digital, less hesitant than before, because you're seeing things moving on. But what I always say is that the proof of the pudding is in the eating. And if you don't create it, if you build it, they will come. Build it, show that it works. We're gonna show that it works, because on paper it does, and we're hell-bent on making sure that what's on paper is gonna be in reality. The only thing that I'm, let's say, that I'm
concerned?
Not concerned, but it's something that I don't know, something that really puzzles me, is how well this is going to be. Not if this is going to improve operations. It's definitely going to improve operations. You see it at other markets. You see it in I mean, it's clear, it's obvious that this is going to have value well beyond its costs or the investment required. The question is how powerful that data is going to be. If you ask me, I'm going I'm going supernova with that. But it's still, again, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. We need to demonstrate that use case. The second shipping company is going to be much easier.